He's got Pedro available to him on this side. He's got Matheus Cunha available to him on this side. And then as we play to Matheus, as we spoke about, Matheus just became an expert in finishing from this part of the pitch. Going to do a recap today of my Wolves team facing Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea in the Premier League in 2024 at Stamford Bridge. We went into the game just below them in the league. Obviously, anytime you go to Stamford Bridge, you're expecting a very tough match. But we felt travelling down there and with the work through the week and what we had available to us that it was going to give us a real good opportunity to maybe jump above them. Yeah, so we're going to look into it in some detail, look at some in possession, out of possession pictures and how that memorable day unfolded. Our lineup that day, we had Jose Sarr in goal, was in very good form at the time, helped us a lot. We had Totti Gomez playing left back, Craig Dawson, left side centre back, Max Kilman on the right, Nelson Semedo in a right back position. Rayan At-Nouri actually left midfield, and a lot of people watching the game would have seen us more as a back five because Rayan had a job to do against Gusto of sort of tracking down, but Rayan was the left of a midfield four. João Gomez, Mario Lemina, really good too, were excellent on the day, regaining the ball. Pablo Sarabia playing off the right, but tucked in quite a bit to use the area inside the pitch. And then obviously Hicham was our only real number 9 at the football club and he suffered an injury. So we went with Pedro Neto as sort of a makeshift 9. Matheus Cunha in this number 10 position. We'll get into Matheus Cunha in a bit more detail later when we move into in possession, but just suited Pedro on the day. We know his favourite position. He loves to operate up against this right flank coming inside on his left foot, but just suited sort of the counter-attack and what we needed from our 9 in this day. And just being flexible. You know, the squad did have real quality in it, but it did lack a bit of depth. So whenever we suffered an injury in this area, we had to be quite sort of creative with what we were able to do with the 11. Chelsea's lineup that day, it was really difficult to pick. So in the build-up in the week, we were trying to figure out what they were going to do, what we thought they might be. Obviously, they had real good depth everywhere. So Petrovic played in goal that day. Ben Chilwell played as a left-back. Thiago Silva on this left side, centre-back. And we sort of tried to get Pedro Neto up against him if we could at times. Obviously, top centre-back. But with the speed that Pedro had and the part of his career that he was entering into, Thiago, we felt we could try and exploit some spaces down here. Disasi, Gusto in this right back position, but would push on an awful lot. Cole Palmer on the side, he would roll in and Gusto would use this space down the outside. Conor Gallagher as sort of the right 8. Caicedo in his position that he has mastered as a 6. Enzo Fernandez on the left side of the 3 in midfield. And then Sterling playing in his usual left wing position and Nkunku as the number 9 who looked to drop down and link quite a lot. So a very strong Chelsea team, but one that we felt really suited our sort of tactical plan on the day. It was a fairly unique game plan for us, but one that suited what we had available really well on the day. So although it's Chelsea away and you know, it's a tough game. We went there with real confidence. I think the build-up through the week was very, very good. Most people, as we spoke about, would have seen us as a back 5 a lot that day. But Chelsea they change shape a lot when they win the ball. So obviously we see them as a 4-3-3. But because they like to use Cole Palmer in the pocket more, they would look a little bit more 3-2-5 once they regained possession and they got comfortable possession. So Ben Chilwell would play quite low as the left back. Gusto would push on and play really high. They would move Cole Palmer in as sort of a right 10, Enzo Fernandez as a left 10, Sterling keeping the width on this side. So instead of Rayan always being up here as a left midfielder, he sort of tracked down. Totti Gomez would be in on Cole Palmer. And we made a big effort that day of keeping our team really close together. There's some real good clips in the game of there only probably being 20 yards, 22 yards between our front line and our back line, which was not a usual game plan for us. We used to like being quite aggressive without the ball, but we didn't feel like we needed to in the day. Chelsea passed the ball quite early from the back line. They weren't ones that tried to attract pressure and tried to bounce around. Chelsea played the ball quite early to the side, so we were able to keep our front 2 down and keep real good protection. So we were really, really comfortable in this sort of, it looks like a 5-3-2 shape, but really comfortable in keeping the lines close together. It was really suited Pablo Sarabia because Ben Chilwell never sort of got on. Pablo could cover the inside for us really well, knowing that Ben Chilwell wasn't really going to go anywhere. So Pablo could cover this inside pocket, stop Fernandes getting on the ball. And then as the ball went outside, Pablo could just creep out and get passive pressure on, force Chelsea back. We never really had to jump. And then the beauty of it was because we had real pace in these two, in Cunha and Pedro Neto, that as they turned the ball over in these areas, or especially on this side, we were able to get these lovely runs from Pedro in this space up against Thiago Silva. And we did a lot of work on the week on can we get our first pass forward on transition. The job of Rayan at Nuri and Totti Gomez really suited them. So Totti was excellent in man-for-man situations. So if you can imagine Gusto and Cole Palmer's starting positions, really straightforward. But now as they start to rotate and Gusto moves high and Cole Palmer moves in the pocket, suited Rayan to follow him down. Rayan was a left wing back naturally anyway, so tracked him down really well. And Totti nice and aggressive on Cole Palmer. So we never had Cole Palmer available to sort of turn. He scored a good goal early on in the game, which was probably the only time that he managed to get away from Totti. It was a great job done by Pedro and Matheus. They were really diligent in these three were not allowed to pass to these two at all through the game. Because of how Chelsea built, they never really tried to attract us out. So Matheus and Pedro were able to keep the team together, restrict the spaces, and we were able to sort of, even if they played to the side now and they tried to get it back into pivot, we always had people around them to get good pressure on the ball. And it really helped Max and Dorse with keeping us really close in these lines, and they never had to step out. So it was a really sort of unique, solid away from home performance, because normally as a coach, I love getting pressure on the ball and I want Pablo to jump and I want Pedro Neto to jump and I want us to be aggressive and I want the back line to come up when we jump and I want us to restrict the spaces. But I just felt with how Chelsea built and what we had available to us, it was much better for us to keep these lines really close together. We end up quite low in the pitch a bit in this game, naturally, because we're not getting pressure on the ball. So we did a lot of work with the back four and the outside midfielders on these sort of roles when the ball's wide. So if Cole Palmer was going to receive the ball wide and he had drifted wide at any time, we knew that Gusto would be arriving around him with pace. So we did a lot of work on the week on Totti Gomez and Rayan and understanding of their relationship in these situations. And Totti always knew that he would be the one to take the runner. And then Rayan would try and squash Cole Palmer from this side to stop him coming back on his left foot. You see a lot of times when wingers try and help out with this overlap, you say Gusto goes round here, Cole Palmer starts to drive at Totti. They work so hard to get back that they overcover, and now Cole Palmer's able to come in on his left foot, flip things to the back post or get shots off. So we worked really hard on this too, Totti and Rayan, and understanding that there was no misunderstanding. Rayan was never going to try and follow this overlap. He was always going to come and try and squash Cole Palmer and let Totti Gomez take the overlap. Totti did great a few times on stopping balls coming into the box. And as we started to get joy with it, you could actually see Totti and Dorse and that celebrating these good defensive situations and when we were able to block stuff. Same on this side. You think of Pablo Sarabia as a real attacking number 10 and not someone that's going to like this part of the game. But he was fantastic on the day and we drilled it with him and Nelson. They had a real good relationship. Same detail. Ben Chilwell ever arrived late to come around Raheem Sterling, Nelson would just instantly back off to take the overlap. Pablo would come and stop Raheem Sterling coming in onto his strong foot, and it would just give us a lovely solid base. Still had our three and our two midfielders to deal with anything that came in the box. And it just gave us a real good, clear understanding, and that the lads dealt with it fantastically well on the day. Restricted Chelsea to very, very few chances. Anytime they did manage to get balls in the box, as you can see, we've got good numbers. And also the beauty of if Chilwell did release and try and attack, if we win the ball here now, let's not just clear it. Can we get balls into Matheus's feet, or can we get Pedro Neto peeling off into this space against Thiago Silva? And now anytime you get Pedro Neto 1v1 in this situation, gave us a lovely opportunity to transition up the pitch and a bit of a mismatch pace-wise against Thiago Silva. So a nice solid base that gave us good numbers, but also gave us a good opportunity to turn it into attacking situations with Matheus and Pedro ready to counter. it's all well and good being well organised out of possession. But if you constantly keep suffering and you don't secure the ball when you get it back, it becomes a really long day at Stamford Bridge. So we were excellent with the ball that day. And you can see I've got a set in our sort of 4-4-2 out of possession shape. But similar to Chelsea, we would use Nelson Semedo as a high right back. So we would move into 3-2-5. Nelson would push high. Pablo Sarabia would move into this pocket as a right 10. Pedro would be our 9. Matheus Cunha would move in sort of as a left 10. Rayan Aït-Nouri would use the outside, opposite side to Nelson Semedo. And then the 2 centre-backs in Max Kilman and Dorse would just balance off with Totti as sort of a low left-back. And we knew that Chelsea coaching staff wouldn't want Raheem to track all the way down with Nels. So we sort of predicted that they would press 3 for 3 on the top line. So Nkunku would go straight down Craig Dawson's throat. Sterling would try and jump to Max Kilman, and Cole Palmer would jump to Totti Gomez. So in that, you have our 2 number 10s in Pablo and Matheus Cunha, and you have Caicedo trying to look after both of them. So you can see a really tough job for him. If the ball's on this side, Caicedo's trying to get across to help with Pablo Sarabia, but now Matheus Cunha's all the way on the opposite side. So we were working really hard on being able to switch the play and trying to get it through into these pockets. As the ball was being cycled around, Joe Gomez knew to try and narrow up Conor Gallagher so that we could try and open this pocket into Matheus Cunha. And the work that had been done with Matheus since we'd been there, he was a proper Brazilian number 10 who wanted to be here sometimes, wanted to drop down and help us here with the ball. And we did a lot of work with him on, Matheus, use this pocket and use this part of the pitch, and we'll teach you how to. And then you're going to get all your chances to score in this area, where he was naturally fantastic at this sort of inside left channel. If you can get Matheus chances to finish from here, he's one of the best in the world at it. If you can get him 1v1 with people in these areas, he's absolutely unstoppable. Matheus wasn't using this part of the pitch well enough for me when I got there. He was sort of being used as a 9, but drifted. So we really honed his skills into using this part of the pitch. And how we built was dependent on what Chelsea did. So I'll go to the other side quickly, and we'll do it on the other side for Pablo, because Dorse was right-footed. So Dorse found it much easier. So we spoke to Mario Lemina around trying to play more narrow than João, just to try and open up this pocket into Pablo. So Pablo Sarabia is available through here. If Raheem Sterling wants to try and press Max like he was trying to do, as we recycle the ball around Dorse, Caicedo, we've moved all the way over to Matheus Cunha. As we recycle the ball around Dorse, can you get it straight through this gate? We used to call it trying to get it through the gate. Can you get it through this gate into Pablo? And now we get this lovely 2v1 where he's driving. We've got Nels on the outside of Chilwell. So we always had a solution for Dorse. You know, whether if Raheem Sterling wants to stay narrow now, Dorse, we'll just go outside to Max. We'll roll Pablo Sarabia in this sort of 10 rollout position. And there's no way that Caicedo can make up the ground to get from all the way over here to getting out to our opposite number 10. So we had fantastic joy switching the ball, getting the ball either through to our 10, getting the ball outside to our 10, or hitting big diags to the outside and getting our 10 to make this wide half space run where Thiago Silva is meant to cover this. But if we run it wide enough, you see some people run it straight through the gap and it's easy for Thiago Silva to squash. We worked really hard on getting Pablo to sort of, as the ball arrives at Nels and Ben Chilwell releases, Pablo sort of stays in his shadow and then ducks underneath, which gets him further away from Thiago Silva. And then the beauty of this is you end up with your number 9, your number 10, and your opposite left winger in a lovely 3v2 in the box. So any cross you can get in now, you obviously have a 60% chance of first contact. Rayan Aït-Nouri arrives here once for his goal. It gets a deflection, admittedly, but we have a lovely overload in the box. So real good joy around trying to get into our number 10s and trying to switch the play to try and create overloads against the way Chelsea set up. And then something that they would try and do, Chelsea, once we started to get some success, as you imagine, Caicedo's worried about Cunha this side. Cunha might have rolled him out to the outside. Totti Gomez switches the ball. Thiago Silva would now be tempted at times to come in on Sarabia and leave us in this man-for-man situation. And then we would just get Pedro Neto running down the side with his space. Anytime a centre-back stepped out the back line, Pedro would just use his speed to run down the side, sort of a good old-fashioned channel ball, but with good understanding and good speed on the end of it. So we always had a solution. No matter what Chelsea did on the day, no matter how they tried to fix it, the lads had a solution and they had real good joy. The importance of having intelligent people in these positions, and Pablo Sarabia was super intelligent. He was almost like having a coach on the pitch. So Pablo understood this position really, really well. And he understood that if we got outside to Nelson Semedo and Enzo Fernandez tried to help Caicedo at any point, Pablo would just run him away, and as Caicedo's on his way across, we'd be able to get back into Mario Lemina. And the beauty of this is now you get this lovely 2v1 on this side. And Matheus and Pablo were both really well versed on, if we have time on the ball, run this corridor. The goal we scored at Fulham the following season, where Mario Lemina drops a fantastic ball for Cunha when he's run through this corridor. That's obviously the ideal scenario, is when Mario has time on the ball, Matheus Cunha runs this corridor, we get him in on goal. But fullbacks are obviously well coached, and most of them will try and cover the inside first. So as Matheus is making this run, fullback will try and squash him. But that now gives Mario a lovely diag to the outside. And now we get this same movement that we spoke about there, where, fullback's covered Matheus. You didn't get the ball in the first instance, Matheus, but now fullback's going to release. Can you stay in his shadow? And can we slide you down into the half space and get you into these areas where you operate so well? The first goal comes from them playing outside and them trying to get back into Caicedo. Obviously, they were keen to try and find Caicedo as a pivot. But because Pedro never really left him, we were able to squash him really well now. As the ball comes back inside the pitch, João Gomez is able to squash him from this side. And Pedro Neto, because he's close to him, he's able to get his foot on it on this side. And now you have Matheus in this lovely position where we're able to transition. So as Pedro wins the ball, we're able to break. João Gomez is able to join in. I think it's João who actually picks up the ball. He's got Pedro available to him on this side. He's got Matheus Cunha available to him on this side. And then as we play to Matheus, as we spoke about, Matheus just became an expert in finishing from this part of the pitch. And I know he gets fortunate on the day. It takes a big deflection. But trust me, if you get Matheus into this position on a football pitch enough, you're going to get some good results from him, because he's got the finish where he bends it in the far corner. He's got the one where he's able to reverse it and drag it into the near post. He can take you outside and he can cut it back. But on the day, we're able to win the ball back from that real nice Pedro Neto on Caicedo, able to transition quickly, get Matheus Cunha into his favourite part of the pitch, and then he shifts it onto his right foot. We get a little bit fortunate with a deflection, and it ends up going into the near post. But a real good goal that came from real good organisation out of possession and able to transition up the pitch quickly. Second goal came from the opposite to the first goal, where we get into a real good in-possession structure. So Max has pushed into this back three position. Nelson Semedo has pushed on. Pablo has moved into his pocket. We're able to get Caicedo to come all the way over here with Matheus Cunha. We have some real good possession. If you watch the game back, you can see Rayan and Matheus passing the ball to each other a few times, which looks like they're doing it for no reason. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to attract Caicedo to make sure that he comes all the way to this side of the pitch before we decide to recycle it. So we keep possession this side, but our whole team have recognised that we're not trying to attack here. We're trying to attract Chelsea to this side. We're trying to now get back through or around to Craig Dawson on his right foot. And as Raheem Sterling now jumps, Mario Lemina narrows up the midfielder. We now have Pedro Neto and Nels in this lovely 2v1 with Ben Chilwell. So as the ball arrives at Dawes, he gets it onto his right foot. The quality of Craig Dawson's diags were top draw. Even surprised me when I arrived at the football club how good he was at hitting these long passes. Pedro recognises the trigger of Dawes having time on the ball. Pedro makes this lovely run that narrows up Ben Chilwell. Dawes hits a lovely diag to Nels. As Ben Chilwell leaves, Pedro Neto makes this fantastic little arced run down the side. It's too far to Thiago to go, so he sort of ends up in no man's land. Pedro ends up in this nice position where Thiago hasn't been able to follow him. We have Pablo arriving as a 9. We have Matheus Cunha arriving as an opposite 10. And then we have our third man arriving as a 3v2. He comes for the cutback. Rayan Casado's not quite able to recover. Pedro cuts it back. Rayan gets a good shot on target, and it ends up going into this near post. So a real good goal of being patient, understanding we're trying to move Casado to this side of the pitch, to get to the opposite side of the pitch, get to the 2v1. Once we get to the 2v1, attack as quickly as possible, arrive with numbers, and then always making sure that behind that, we get our back line up and our rest defence is always well organised. Even Jose Sarr involved in rest defence. In case something comes out, we're able to get good contact or make a good foul. Or if it goes over the top, Jose Sarr is able to pick it up for us and make a real good clearance. But a fantastic goal that came from real good understanding with the ball. Our third goal actually came from a longer distribution from Jose. And we spoke about this a lot in the game around we felt we were going to be able to have good control of the ball and we felt we were going to be able to build. But of course, at some point at Stamford Bridge, especially if you're 2-1 up and there's maybe half an hour left on the clock, we don't need to be sort of killing ourselves here by overplaying. So if we ever felt the need to, we were always going to try and kick to this side. And we knew that if we could get Ben Chilwell out of the line, that we would be able to get Pedro Neto to use these spaces down the outside. So anytime Jose Sarr kicked long in the game, we went to this part of the pitch and we had two real top competitive centre midfielders that anytime things dropped in here, you fancied Mario Lemina and João Gomez with their physicality to be able to pick things up. So as soon as the ball drops here now, you see Pedro Neto peel off into this lovely space and we're just able to fight and scrap and win second balls and get him up and away against Thiago Silva. And now we have Rayan Nouri arriving really quickly at the back post from the opposite side as Pedro's able to progress. Defenders working really hard from Chelsea to recover. Thiago not quite able to catch Pedro Neto. And Matheus just able to win this race because he's the wrong side of their defensive midfielder. Matheus is now able to win this race. And Pedro, top quality. To be moving at this speed, to be under the pressure he is, and to recognise that the right ball isn't to fire it across for Rayan, who's 1v1, is to show real composure on your right foot and to cut it back with lovely detail, soft, so that Matheus Cunha can just arrive in this area that we spoke about a lot and finish with his right foot. So the beauty of the 3 goals so far are that one comes from out of possession structure, one comes from real good control and being able to play through the lines, and one comes from an understanding of we're at Stamford Bridge and it's not always going to be pretty. And we have 2 real top competitors in the middle of the pitch. And we can still isolate Pedro 1v1 against Thiago Silva down the side. And then I think most of the stadium, especially this end, where the Wolves fans were sat, were thinking 3-1. This is unbelievable. Game's done. But you can imagine in this technical area here, 3-1 up, still with 25 minutes to go. There's still a lot of work to be done. So now, instantly, as soon as we score this goal, our thought returns to, right, let's get the lads back on task. Let's not let them get carried away. 3-1's a dangerous scoreline. If Chelsea score at any moment, this game is still on. So we needed to get them back, get them reset. Chelsea started to make some subs, and then we were able to move things around a little bit to help us get the 4th goal. As Chelsea responded later on in the game, the coaching staff, obviously very good at the level, and they started to try and protect these pockets really, really well. And as the game drifted on, we were struggling to get Matheus Cunha the ball. We were getting Rayan loads of the ball on the outside. Because he was left-footed, it was really hard for him to wriggle away from Gusto. Gusto sort of squashed in. We ended up going back. They ended up getting good pressure on the ball. So as this ball was on its way around, we asked Rayan to move inside and use the pocket. And Cunha would move outside. Although it's the same picture, it's completely different attributes. Matheus Cunha's outside. He's right-footed. He's more of a winger profile. He's going to go at you 1v1. So now Gusto had a problem where Matheus Cunha would now front him up 1v1 instead of it being Rayan and Rayan coming back on his left foot. Cunha would just front him up 1v1. And although Chelsea have now solved the problem by protecting the middle of the pitch with numbers, we now get to this 1v1 area that we speak about on the outside of the pitch where Matheus knows now I'm going to come down late for Totti, so I'm going to wait until there's pressure. I'm going to arrive late and I'm going to face Gusto up and I'm going to take him 1v1. And then obviously we had an unbelievable talent in Matheus Cunha, and he's able to get Gusto all the way back into the penalty area and win a penalty that gets us 4-1 up in the game. We shared a nice moment after the game, me and Matheus, really, because he obviously had big money transfer to Wolves from Atletico and hadn't really worked out for him in that first season. And we had a good relationship, myself and Matheus, but I know I drove him mad at times with the amount of work that I asked him to do and how diligent I wanted him to be in these positions and how I couldn't improve the talent that he had because his talent was already top. But what he needed to do was trust my understanding of where he needed to be and why and at what times, and that he needed to be there always, and that we didn't want to waste any opportunities. And he was just getting more and more opportunities to show the world how good he was in this area. So I know that he appreciated the work that went into him, and he could feel the appreciation I had for him, because to work with a player with this ability that you could get the ball into the pocket to and he could cause chaos, or you could ask him to play outside and he could still cause chaos. And the same with Pedro Neto, you know, he'd had a real tough season the season before. But for him to be able to be on a big stage like Stamford Bridge and to be able to show to people that he could operate as a 9, he could still operate on the outside and face people up 1v1, and that his understanding was top. And now, obviously, you see Pedro Neto now being at one of the best clubs in the world. You see Matheus Cunha being able to move on and play for one of the biggest clubs in the world. So a lot of work that went in from them to buy into what I asked them to do. My favourite spell as a football coach so far in my short career was where we had this football team at this moment, where everything fit so well, when Chani was still available or when Pedro was able to come in as the 9. I knew no matter where we went, we were going to be able to cause teams problems with a big wins, you know, whether it was Manchester City at home and we were able to beat, whether it was Chelsea at home, Chelsea away, Tottenham at home, Tottenham away. Some huge, huge results that we were able to put together with this incredibly talented group that we were able to gel and sort of start to push on a real upward trajectory.